that federal interest, right? So the impact aid is paid to the school districts to support educating the military children.
That's absolutely correct, Senator, and it may not be priority for a congressman in another district to make sure that that impact aid is received for those schools.
In the other district.
The other district, yes, sir.
Okay.
So Vernon Parish, is laser focused upon Fort Polk and its family education. When Congress authorized the Defense Communities Infrastructure Program, known as the DSIP, the parish and the state went after the first DSIP grant ever and competed against communities all across the nation. We were able to win a $7.5 million grant for our schools, and we invested that $7.5 million in STEM classrooms at 5 of our schools. So the investment continues for Vernon Parish and Leesville. Vernon Parish answered the Army's call for additional land and sold another 42,000 acres of land, or 47,000 acres of land out of our parish, so which makes Fort Polk own 50% of Vernon Parish.
So Mayor, once again, it looks like that connection, that community of interest connection, continues to extend. And I know that they have, in this version of the map, and you're not here to necessarily talk about one map or the other, but in this version of a map under consideration, it appears that we're actually splitting apart into 2 congressional districts, the Army base proper and the additional land that was purchased that they used for their training, and so that federal facility is kind of sliced in that additional property you're speaking of, that the parish no longer has the ability to tax and then has to rely on federal appropriations to support things like school districts and others, would be divided. Is that?
That's absolutely correct, Senator, and it splits my city as well.
Yeah.
So it puts us in a position to where the military is also interested in purchasing more land from Vernon Parish, which will be in the opposite district as well. So it's well known that Fort Polk is the largest economic generator in Vernon Parish and the 2nd largest employer in the whole state of Louisiana. The recent economic impact study funded by the state demonstrates that there's no other parish that is dependent on a nearby military installation, whether it be Belle Chase or Barksdale Air Force Base or others, as compared to Fort Polk and Vernon Parish.
So Mayor, that in terms of that connection, not just economic connection, but one of the things that all of us that live anywhere near a military installation live in constant fear of is base realignment and closure. And we talk about that often, and in the base realignment and closure process, there are a lot of factors that the military measures to determine whether or not that installation is going to remain open or close or grow or shrink or all those factors. But isn't one of those factors, in terms of talking about a community of interest, one of those factors is the community support measurement piece, right? Whether that's housing, whether that's job opportunity, or whether that's education opportunity. And again, we've kind of divided that in terms of federal interest here. But that is that not part of what they measure in a BRAC?
It's absolutely one of the key issues in how it's scored, and this would sever that relationship and that. So beyond that fact, however, there are families working inside the fence line of Fort Polk, and the civilians of the parish and citizens outside that are supporting Fort Polk. It's hard to describe to you the emotions that are involved in our parish members, with our parish members and our soldiers, unless you've been to a parade or a change of command or been there for Veterans Day or something along those lines. I can't explain to you the relationship that we have with Fort Polk, and we're very proud of that in Vernon Parish.
So Mayor, the installation in this case, in this particular version though, where we kind of divide out the installation proper from the town of Leesville, there's, in terms of military personnel stationed at that installation, there's a percentage of those that live on base, there's a percentage of those that live off base.
Yes, sir.
What would you say that current makeup is?
So 40% of the military lives in our community, off base.
Okay.
So one last point that I'd like to stress to you, that when it comes to Congress representation, the nexus between Vernon Parish, Fort Polk, and the congressional delegation district that understands and serves both entities should not be overlooked. Many of the partnering activities between the Army and the Vernon Parish, whether it's education or energy or shared activities between the Army and Vernon Parish, whether it's having Fort Polk and the Parish and the congressional district working together, has been a key advantage in retaining missions and trust of the Army at Fort Polk. Breaking that nexus could cause harm to the Parish and to the Army. We will continue to support the Army under any eventuality, but being a congressional district that is unmoored from Fort Polk will inevitably disrupt this cohesiveness and coordination that we have served the Parish and the Army for very many years.
So, Mayor, why don't you talk a little bit about, because again, one of the things we're talking about here is not only a community of interest, but in how that integrates in with congressional decision making. So you guys worked hard to create in Congress some law called Intergovernmental Support Agreements. And maybe tell me a little bit about how the Intergovernmental Support Agreement works in terms of community of interest, that in the case of this map we're kind of dividing in half. But tell me a little bit about how that's worked for some of the communities. So in 2012 and 13, whenever they passed a law in Congress that allowed us to enter into an intergovernmental service agreement with a base next to our communities, it allowed us to go after some services that the city of Leesville, for instance, already provides that Fort Polk, the Army base, needed. Mm-hmm. We landed a $3.2 million vegetation control contract, which is a vital part of the city's budget. And it set us on a new trajectory geographically where we're located. There are not very many opportunities to increase revenue or to increase our budget. But that intergovernmental service agreement, we hold 3 of the largest in the world, and Leesville has the largest intergovernmental service agreement in the world with Fort Polk. So, all of these things require congressional action, is my observation. So you've got to have the authority to perform these kind of services, which takes congressional action. You have to have the appropriations at congressional level that funds these sort of actions. And one of the things we've struggled with, I think, historically, is maintaining seats on the House Armed Services Committee. Would you believe that in terms of communities of interest, maintaining things like Barksdale Air Force Base and Fort Polk, our state's 2 largest installations in the state, together is probably how we leverage that congressional seat on House Armed Services versus dividing out where one congressman has half of Fort Polk and another congressman has half of Fort Polk?
Absolutely.
Kind of been the practice we've seen. And
you can see the results of that in just the last wins for Fort Polk and Barksdale Air Force Base. Over $123 million in MILCON projects alone for those 2 bases, and absolutely would be affected by splitting that base. Taking that leverage away from our now congressman or whoever the congressman will be could affect that tremendously.
Thank you.
I appreciate you listening to me today, and I understand that you have a very tough decision to make here. But Leesville and Vernon Parish is a community of interest, and it will greatly affect our ability to support and continue to support Fort Polk and our military families. I'm proud of the work we've done, but we've got a lot of work left to do. And splitting our city and splitting our parish and actually dividing the training ground that our great military uses to train at Fort Polk would be a bad move for us. Again, I want to thank you for all you do, and I understand that you have a very tough decision to make. But with prayer, we will get through this. And I again want to thank you for the opportunity, and I'll take any more questions at this time.
Mayor, I appreciate your sincere effort for detailing to this committee and others, how you can't abandon necessarily that community of interest that for the largest military installation in the state of Louisiana, which is a federal asset, which is absolutely governed by Congress, absolutely influenced by Congress, and we would seek to divide that federal installation in half, giving half of an installation to one congressional district, half of an installation to another congressional district, and then divide the city responsible for providing the bulk of that support to the federal partner, divide that city in half. But I also respect the fact that you are not willing to necessarily speak on the merits of one map versus another map, but to focus in really on what we, just the parameters of that parish and the fact that it is an undistinguishable community of interest, really undistinguishable community of interest, in terms of federal policy. So I thank you for taking the time to do that.
Thank you, and I'm glad that's not my job today. Thank you all.
Would you take a question or a comment from Senator Milligan?
Absolutely.
You'll probably take the map, Senator? He wants the map. Okay. All right.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. And Mr. Mayor, thank you again for being here and what you do, and certainly representing the folks around Fort Polk. And really, Senator Reese, if you don't mind, you and I serve in military affairs together, and you've got a deep history in Fort Polk, and you understand the power and the responsibility that the 4th Congressional District has with having two big military installations, but also seeing the investments in our communities because of that power. And so would you just hit that again and reiterate the fact that keeping those together in the same district is a win for Louisiana, and how, please?
I will add you to the party, Senator.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, and that's been my observation is in terms of the 4th District, being able to aggregate that military influence of both Barksdale Air Force Base, so two branches of service, two vital assets to our nation, but really in terms of their economic impact and other impacts to the state of Louisiana, they're the two largest. And that's given us the leverage historically that one congressman representing both of those two large installations have the opportunity to be on the influential committees that make a difference in terms of appropriations and in terms of military policy that allow them to thrive and allow them to continue to be positive impacts on the state of Louisiana and to be viable in supporting the mission of national defense. I think that's the reason we've been so successful in accruing the resources necessary, is because we can aggregate those into one district, because it is such a shared interest between those two communities, those two bases.
And I appreciate that. I've seen the infrastructure investments in Bossier surrounding the base. I've seen the investment into cyber and those responsibilities in the Northwest Louisiana community. We've seen that investment, and certainly you've seen it in the Fort Polk area, and you've spoke on that several times. I would hate to think that we would weaken our responsibility, our representation for the military community and the investment that the government makes in our state by dividing this up among numerous congressmen. We certainly in Louisiana need every positive we can get, and that's certainly a very strong one for us. I would like not to see that broke up and split. I want to see that the power is retained under one congressional member for the sake of not just our communities but all Louisiana. So thank you for.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mayor Allen.
Thank you.
All right, Mayor, thank you very much. We appreciate you. All right, I've got a white card here also from Timothy Magner, the Greater Shreveport Chamber. If you would like to come forward.
Good afternoon, and thank you so much for the opportunity to meet with you today. I'm Dr. Tim Magnum. I'm the president of the Greater Shreveport Chamber of Commerce, and I wanted to provide you some additional background on the 4th District. As you know, the political boundaries are comprised of overlapping communities of interest. They begin with small units such as streets and neighborhoods, moving outwards to towns and cities and military installations, further to parishes, regions, and then configurations like the 4th District and the state of Louisiana. Thus, larger boundaries are built on smaller communities. The logic of this approach is that the value is added as more contiguous communities are linked together. One example of this value, which we talked about here at length, is the inclusion of the state's two important military installations of Barksdale Air Force Base and Fort Polk, and the Joint Readiness Training Center. Beyond the singular impact of either institution is the impact that their combined inclusion has on the 4th District, which will equip whoever holds that congressional seat with great influence in Washington, D.C. These two installations are critically important to national security interests, and their importance virtually guarantees that the member who represents them will sit on the powerful Armed Services Committee. A seat on the Armed Services Committee allows the representative to better compete for funding that is essential not just to the economy of the 4th District, but to the state's economy as well. As a recent example, the 2022 National Defense Authorization Act, the Louisiana military installations led by Barksdale Air Force Base and Fort Polk are set to secure about $1 billion in funding, which includes more military construction dollars for the Air Force and the Army than anywhere else in the world. Representative Johnson's position on the House Armed Services Committee representing both bases was a critical factor in bringing those federal dollars to Louisiana. Dividing our base communities into separate districts would dilute the bargaining strength and have potentially negative effects on our state. Both Barksdale and Fort Polk are poised to expand importance in the future. There's a weapons generation facility that's slated to go into Barksdale, and I know Fort Polk is looking to expand as well, as you just heard. With the planned expansions, there will be opportunities to create new businesses and attract businesses from out of state. A single representative in Congress can help facilitate those expansions, but splitting the installations into two districts puts those plans at risk. And it's not just the financial impacts. Military families often have different needs than you and I, and having those base communities in the same district allows their representative in Congress to have a better understanding of those needs. Fort Polk has approximately 8,000 soldiers stationed, with 13,000 family members living on and off, as well as 6,000 Department of the Army civilians and contract employees, and more than 40,000 retirees in that area alone. Barksdale, by contrast, has a population of almost 15,000, which is comprised of about 5,000 active duty, 1,300 or so reservists, almost 5,500 military family members, 2,500 civilian employees, and over 25,000 retirees in that area. Many service members, veterans, and their families face similar problems virtually all military families and their military personnel and their families encounter. Ensuring that these populations are part of a single congressional district allows their elected representative to better address their needs than if they were divided among multiple districts. The 4th District also unites rural, agricultural, and timber industries. The 4th District is largely rural and thus includes the included parishes share concerns that rural districts have, such as rural broadband, rural water, and access to education, to name but a few. This is also a significant agricultural district. The 4th District is in the top 25% of all congressional districts in agriculture, supporting the state's $11 billion industry because the district encompasses poultry, cattle, crawfish, rice, and soybeans are growing across the district in Caddo, Bossier, Natchitoches, Evangeline, and St. Landry. This is also a strong timber district, with timber processing facilities also across the district in Homer, Ringgold, Coshada, Chestnut, Oakdale, Chopin, and a new one being constructed in Bossier Parish. Thus, there are some population and economic similarities and interdependencies between and among the component parishes of the 4th District. However, I would offer that the strength of the 4th District is not simply due to the outlines of the district itself, but that in the manner in which it is constructed builds on the combined strength of the communities, such as the bases, cities, towns, and parishes that are contained wholly within the district. The strength of the whole, therefore, is predicated on the integrity and internal continuity of each of its parts. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Doctor. Appreciate that. So I was a little bit confused by some of the points. Were you speaking in support of the enacted bill, or were you speaking in support of of the bill, I know you turned in a white card. You're basically trying to provide information, I guess, and describe it. When you just talk about the district, are you describing the district as it exists today?
As it's currently constructed,
Okay.
yes, ma'am.
All right, I understand now. Thank you. All right, Senator Milligan.
Thank you, Mr. Chairwoman. I don't have a question, Tim, but I want to thank you for your leadership and taking the time to come down today. You and your team are rock stars and certainly lead the charge in Shreveport and Northwest Louisiana as a whole, so I do appreciate you.
Thank you so much.
All right, sir, would you take a question from Senator Reese?
Certainly.
Mr. Magnus, thank you for coming in to testify today, and I know you turned in a white card, so I won't ask you necessarily about a particular position on a bill, but again, one of the difficulties that we have is, you know, how you construct bills and layer all of the requirements for redistricting principles on top of one another to ultimately arrive at something that both meets all legal standards that we've discussed here today, but at the same time, you know, holds together communities of interest. Some communities of interest are cultural, some are very, you know, local related communities of interest. But in terms of congressional policy, and today we're talking about congressional maps and congressional representation, I mean, is there a stronger congressional policy tie in terms of community of interest than what you would witness to be that of Barksdale and Fort Polk?
No, and again, I think it's the implication of what that has for the state as a whole. The combination of those two installations have tremendous impact individually on the, as we heard from the gentleman from Vernon Parish earlier, and certainly the impact on the Caddo-Barksdale region is significant. But the combination of those two together within a single congressional district has profound influence on what happens not just in that district but in the state of Louisiana as well. And so maintaining those connections, and similarly, to the extent possible, maintaining the integrity of, as we heard, cities around the bases, and the ability to be able to have that community's sort of organizational integrity reflected in how that is supported throughout the district.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time and effort to help educate us on that. So thank you.
Certainly. Happy to do so.
All right, I think that's the last question. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. All right, next I'd like to call up from St. Tammany Parish, Parish President Mike Cooper and Councilman Mike Lorino.
No, thank you, Mike.
All right, thank you all very much for being here. Who would like to go first?
President Cooper.
President,
first.
President Cooper, thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee, Senator Fields. Currently, all of St. Tammany Parish is represented by Congressional District Number 1. Senate Bill 1 divides St. Tammany Parish into two congressional districts, Congressional District 1 and Congressional District 6. St. Tammany Parish has been represented by Congressional District 1 since 1974, almost a half a century. We'd appreciate this committee giving the same attention that was given Act 5 and Senate Bill 5 of the 2022 First Extraordinary Session with respect to the boundaries of political subdivisions by keeping us whole within Congressional District Number 1. Act 5, SB 5, preserves our core principal values and the community of interest within St. Tammany Parish, as was mentioned earlier. St. Tammany is naturally included within the New Orleans economic region, and SB 1 puts more than half of our parish within the congressional district based in and around Baton Rouge, instead of New Orleans. Finally, whether it is our infrastructure projects, flood protection issues, our economic priorities, or our cultural way of life, our priorities in St. Tammany are united and stretch across our entire parish. The people of St. Tammany strongly support remaining intact within the 1st Congressional District. I would respectfully ask that you vote to defer Senate Bill 1 and keep all of St. Tammany Parish within Congressional District 1 as enacted by Act 5 of the first extraordinary session of 2022. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. Yes, Councilman, if you would introduce yourself again for the record.
Yes, ma'am. Mike Lorino, Councilman, District 4, St. Tammany Parish Council. Before I get started, what a tough job you have. We're getting ready to start redistricting ourselves, and I can just imagine in a few weeks sitting on that side and handling the issues that you're bringing forth. And it's going to be a tough, tough go. But I want to thank you all for that. Madam Chair, there's not much that I can add to what President Cooper said and what you eloquently described as so important to St. Tammany Parish to remain whole. Senator, I realize that there's a lot of areas that are divided, but that doesn't mean you have to change one because another one is there. There should be a way to look at these things and try to figure them out and work them the best you can, and if you can't, well, you can't. But as I sat there and listened today, the committee only has 3 choices as I sit there. Keep what you have now, vote for Senator Fields' new one, or let the courts do it. So whatever way you choose, that's a tough decision on each and every one of you sitting here. And it's going to be guided by your principles and your beliefs. But sitting here, I would rather see you ladies and gentlemen do it much more than a court handling. Because everything I've seen come out of courts over the years sometimes aren't the most friendly and correct. And so I'd just like to once again say thank you very much. I realize the job you had, and I also ask you to leave St. Tammany whole, if possible. If possible. We just had a major election in St. Tammany Parish, and at the beginning of that election, that issue was supposed to divide St. Tammany Parish, and it didn't. Because all the people in St. Tammany Parish had an opportunity to vote, and all the people voted what they wanted to have done. And that's what we strive to do, and I know that's what you strive to do. So once again, thank you very much, and we really appreciate the job and the difficult job. Thank you, Madam Chair, and it's great to see you as always.
Well, I appreciate you all coming over here to our world and appreciate what you do. Yeah, this map as it's represented here for our parish is very troubling to me, and you all know these precincts as well as I do. You know, we're splitting neighborhoods in the Military Road area. You know, we're taking Pearl River that has maybe 4 or 5 precincts and putting 4 of them in one district and the other one in a different district, a congressional district. We're doing the same in Lacombe, where these are very small areas, right? And splitting them is very concerning to me. And then I think the other thing, and I'm going to put you guys on the spot a little bit, we have a little competition kind of between the east side and the west side of the parish, and again, kind of putting the east side over in a different congressional district than the west side only helps promulgate that, wouldn't you think?
Yes, it does. In fact, we represent 8 municipalities as well. There are 8 municipalities in St. Tammany Parish, and they meet regularly as the St. Tammany Municipal Association. We are a cohesive parish. We're the 4th largest parish in the state of Louisiana, yet we are very cohesive. We continue to grow. And yes, by dividing our cities or splitting some of the cities from the rest of the other municipalities in a different congressional district would be detrimental to our parish.
Madam Chair, may I say one other thing?
Sure.
I left off one important point. This would be the second time District 4 has been affected by, or St. Tammany has been affected by a change. You just came down with a new Senate district. And then now, in my district, I have half the highway, 22, in the new Senate district, and the other half of the highway in the old Senate district. You know, and residents don't really understand that, especially new residents that are moving in. They just think, hey, here's my senator, but they don't realize, well, across the street, it's a different senator. So, you know, we just went through that, and if, as I said, if we can keep St. Tammany whole as it is, it would be great.
And I appreciate that. And we do see ourselves as a community of interest, right? We have festivals and, you know, all of those things. We have one chamber of commerce that represents both sides. We used to have two separate ones. We have one chamber.
Yes.
We have one economic development organization. You know, we definitely see ourselves as one community of interest. And, you know, dividing us this way is, again, it violates everything that I know about our parish and where we've raised our kids for 35 years.
And of course, again, economically, we're a part of GNO Inc., Greater New Orleans Inc. That's our economic development organization. And it's important that we be a part of the New Orleans region as opposed to being shifted to the Baton Rouge region.
Okay. Well, I appreciate y'all taking the time to come and speak here with us. I wish I could take you to lunch. Looks like we're going to kind of work through lunch.
Take a rain check.
But thank you very much for
You
being
all.
here.
Thank you, members of the
Thank you.
committee.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you, sir.
All right, I've got a couple of folks here from Washington Parish, Sheriff Randy Seal and Brent Jones from Franklinton. All right, we must have worn them out. That would be easy to do. All right, from Rayville, Ethan Estes and Harrison Cooper from Rayville, Louisiana.
All right.
Welcome.
Can you hear me?
Pull it a little bit closer and then introduce yourself for the record.
How about now? Can you
Much
hear me?
better.
Perfect. All right. Good afternoon. My name is Ethan Estes, and I'm from Rayville, Louisiana. It is a very small town in northeast Louisiana with about 3,000 people, so we're just a map dot. I'm a student at the University of Louisiana, Monroe, and I have worked in the political arena, I guess, for the last 3 or 4 different years. My first job was working as an intern for then Congressman Ralph Abraham, and my most recent job was working for Congressman-elect Luke Letlow. And I've traveled all 24 parishes and almost all 64 parishes in the state, 24 parishes that comprises our 5th Congressional District, and I've met many, many different people along the way. But we all have a lot of similarities, right? We've heard a lot this morning. Senator Hewitt, you talked about communities of interest, right? And so Louisiana's 5th Congressional District is comprised of nothing but communities of the same interest. We are comprised of agriculture in northeast Louisiana, soybeans, cotton, corn. In the central Louisiana of our district, it's timber. In the Florida parishes, it's cattle and strawberries, peaches. The 5th Congressional District is one of the largest exporters of agriculture, and we are the largest district that runs parallel to the Mississippi River, prime for economic development and economic growth. Our now Congresswoman Julia Letlow sits on the Appropriations Committee up in Washington, D.C., a very powerful committee in Washington, D.C., that is a grand slam of bringing dollars and money back to our district and invested in our communities to where it matters. Senator Milligan, you talked this morning about West Carroll Parish and Ouachita Parish and Richland Parish. You know, in Northeast Louisiana, we're the redheaded stepchild, right? Nobody ever really gives us enough credit. And we are the rural parish. We are a very rural district. And so we sort of get the hand-me-downs on some end of the deal. But that's okay. But at the same time, we also have a voice, too, in all of this, right? This bill, Senate Bill 1, diminishes the rural life of Northeast Louisiana. It does away with the communities of similarities, excuse me. East Baton Rouge Parish, what this bill does is 30% of the population would now reside in East Baton Rouge Parish alone. And the entire district that's being proposed in Senate Bill 1, that goes all the way up to Lake Providence, West Carroll, East Carroll Parish, the representation would most likely fall to East Baton Rouge Parish, and we would not have a voice at that point.
So you're saying 30% of the Congressional District 5, the way it's drawn in this bill, would be from East Baton Rouge Parish?
30% of the population.
Of the population.
Would be concentrated to East Baton Rouge Parish.
Which completely, and do you see that as a community of interest? Where you talked about all the agriculture and the rural part of really what you, as you all see yourselves as being. How does that doesn't really fit with East Baton Rouge?
Not at all. Again, Northeast Louisiana, we are country folks, and we are the agriculture district. But we don't have similarities with East Baton Rouge Parish, right? And we don't believe that our voices would be or accurately represented if it comes down to this. Another thing that I want to pinpoint, I know that we don't have the map up, but Ouachita Parish is
We can
split.
pull it up. We can pull it up.
Perfect.
We know people that can pull up maps. You want to pull up the Ouachita area?
Perfect.
Okay.
So looking at Ouachita Parish, we can clearly see that it is split, and that has not happened in I don't know how long. But Monroe, Louisiana, and some of the city limits of West Monroe would reside in the proposed District 5, while the other half of Ouachita Parish would then be in Congressman Mike Johnson's district. This would cause a multitude of problems as far as education, economic growth. Our Ouachita Parish School Board would not have a voice around this particular district. You know, half of Ouachita Parish may get funding, the other half may not. That creates just an astronomical amount of hurdles that would need to be overcome with that. And so myself and some folks that are here today with me are strongly against the proposed bill because we believe it pulls our voice away. And we believe that with this new concentration of most of the population, or a good bit of the population, being concentrated to East Baton Rouge Parish would bring our voices away. And that's something that we are not ready to do, considering that most of the members of Congress are along the I-10 corridor. And with that, that is all that I have. I'm going to pass it now over to Mr. Cooper if there's any questions.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cooper, introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, ma'am. I'm Harrison Cooper. I'm from Rayville, Louisiana. I've spent my whole life in the 5th District. I grew up in Rayville. I just graduated from Louisiana Tech in Ruston, which is in Lincoln Parish. So I've spent my whole life in the 5th District along the I-20 corridor. And to see it being split, it would just change the whole dynamics of that area. My dad farms, and so I've seen farmland in the whole district. And for that to get split and moved, and for the voice to be taken away that we do have right now, it would change a lot of things. And that's basically it.
All right. No, I appreciate that. And I did not realize 30% of the population would be in East Baton Rouge. So you're, at risk of converting or changing a district that is agriculture-based and rural-based. We talked about the Delta and lumping it in with East Baton Rouge, which had, urban, much different. issues, concerns, priorities, et cetera. So that was a significant point.
Can I give you one more percentage?
Yes.
So over 60% of the 5th District would be in South Louisiana around Baton Rouge also.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, that's significant, and I appreciate you pointing that out. It didn't, it's not that obvious when you look at the geography, because it is such a large district. But when you talk about where the population is centered, that is a completely different picture, and to me, completely changes the complexion of the district as it was intended, and minimizes the importance of agriculture in our state. We are an agriculture state, and much of that comes from the 5th District, and so I appreciate you all making those points.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
If I can make one more comment really quickly, I'll promise to be brief. During my time on Luke Letlow's campaign, we traveled, again, all 24 parishes in the 5th Congressional District every day from March to December. And anywhere he went, he never met a stranger, right? No matter who it was, no matter your background, no matter anything, he always bound and determined to get to know you. His wife shares that same character. Dr. Letlow, Congresswoman Letlow, has been an advocate for higher education. She's been an advocate for agriculture, and she's been an advocate for all the people of the 5th Congressional District. And we would like to urge the committee to keep the 5th District the way it is, and one of the similar bills that you have recently presented, Madam Chair. So with that, we yield our time.
All right. We appreciate that very much. Thank you all for being here and traveling to be with us today at the Capitol. We've got one more person up from northeastern part of the state, and that's Brooke Edmondson from West Monroe. Brooke, would you like to come?
Hello. My name
Welcome.
is Brooke Edmondson, and I'm from West Monroe, Louisiana. I currently go to school at Louisiana Tech. I'm in civil engineering, but kind of just piggybacking off of what you just heard, I've lived in Ouachita Parish my entire life. Our parish is made up of lots of different people. Though we have several municipalities in Ouachita Parish, we are one. We are one together. We work together. We have different cities, of course, but we are one together. And then splitting up this parish would just take away some of the things that we have worked so hard to overcome over the past few years. Our parish has not always worked collaboratively together. However, in the past few years, we have done an excellent job of expanding that and just continuing to do so. But splitting up our parish would take away from our infrastructure improvements, our economic advances, and then right off of what you just said, or that you just heard from the agriculture standpoint of it. So we just urge you once again to reconsider this. You do have to make tough decisions in this and splitting up communities, but we are just asking that you will reconsider the Ouachita Parish community.
Well, thank you for taking the time to join us. As I look at the map, and you may not be able to answer this question, but I'm not sure if all of West Monroe is even included in the same district or not. It looks like there could be parts of West Monroe in District 5 and parts in District 4. I don't know if you've looked at those
Correct.
precincts or
Yes,
you know
ma'am.
them. Is that true?
Yes, ma'am, that is true. And that's one thing, like even me being from West Monroe, I live outside of the city limits. And so we do a lot of our work in West Monroe. I work there. We do like our eating, our shopping, everything is in West Monroe city limits. However, we live a mile away from the city limits. So we will technically be considered in Mike Johnson's district if this passes. However, everything else that we do resides in the 5th district. So that's the main change, just kind of advocating for those other communities like Brownsville, Claiborne, those areas of Ouachita Parish.
So you all in that community, you think of yourselves as being, one community of interest.
Absolutely.
The way it's divided on this proposed map doesn't make any sense to you in the West Monroe area in particular. Is that right?
Correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and again, and I'm asking, I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm trying to, it does look to me the way it's drawn that there are parts of West Monroe that are out.
Yes, ma'am. And like I just said, like the city limits, of course, of West Monroe, they are included in the 5th District still. However, when I think of West Monroe, you know, it's not just the city limits. It's all of the people, the community right outside of these city limits that make up West Monroe. We are one. We are a whole. We are very family-oriented, community-based, and we all support each other. And so drawing this line in between us just kind of strips that away from us.
Okay. All right, and best of luck in your civil engineering career.
Thank you very much. One more year.
It's a great field, and I'm a little partial to female engineers, so
Yes,
I give you
ma'am.
all the encouragement I can.
Well, I certainly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. All right, let me go to Metairie. Nathan Koenig? Nathan, are you still here? Okay. All right. In Pineville, Cade Smith.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
If you will, would you pull up the Rapides Parish map, please? So my name is Cade Smith. I am from Alexandria, Louisiana. I currently reside in Pineville, but I'm a recent graduate in political science from the University of Louisiana Monroe. So it's a little unique. I, when looking at this map, have my hometown of Alexandria being divided and our community being divided, but also where I went to college, Monroe, also being divided outside of West Monroe, as they previously talked about. I grew up in Boyce, which is northwest of Alexandria, and all of these little towns that you see, everything happens in Alexandria. People live outside, sort of like how they were talking about in West Monroe. People live outside of the city limits, but everyone comes to Alexandria. And if you look above, this is kind of a cluster right here. You have Pollock all the way down to Ball to Alexandria. Everyone comes to Alexandria, and that's being split among 3 different districts in this proposed map, which is why I am urging all of you to reconsider. And I'm not here to debate on whether or not there should be, I know we talked earlier about the racial disparities. I'm looking at the communities of interest myself. And I know everyone wants their parishes to be clean cut, which isn't feasible. And I think I would prefer to see a parish kind of dug into outside of the communities of interest rather than have, say, Alexandria metro area split up into 2 or 3 different districts. Also, to kind of touch on the agricultural side of things, like we already discussed earlier, if you could zoom out to just the state map. Can we get the current map? Is there a current map? Yeah, so this is the current map. As you can see, Northeast Louisiana has essentially all the yellow is agricultural. We are the agricultural district of Louisiana. We essentially produce nearly 50% of all agricultural sales from Louisiana comes from the 5th District. And if you go to the new map that was proposed, you see how much of the district gets lost in this. And one, that's going to hurt our agricultural community. We have all these farmers that are in the Northeast District, sort of like leveraging armed services. This goes back to agriculture. We have Congresswoman Julia Letlow, who sits on the Agriculture Committee in the House right now. And if we lose part of her area to another representative, they might not get that same representation. They might not get those same grants and funding from the federal government, which is just really important to consider when looking at redistricting. I know, like I said, it would be ideal to have every parish clean cut in a different district, but it's not. But also, we want to avoid cutting into these communities of interest. And like I pointed out earlier, like between Grant and Rapides Parish, everybody kind of goes into Alexandria. I have family that lives in Grant Parish. I have family that lives in Ball, Pineville, Alexandria. So like having them split between 3 different districts, that's just completely insane in my opinion, which is why I'm urging you all to reconsider this area in particular, Alexandria, but also not really going into the Monroe area and Ouachita Parish because that's already been covered, but that's also another area of concern. And that is all I have.
Would you go back and just sort of touch on, I think you talked about this a little bit, go back to the Bill, the Rapides, Vernon Parish map, kind of the Alexandria, Leesville area. Were you saying that that's, that appears to be chopped up, is that what you're saying?
Oh, I was just talking, I didn't realize I mentioned Vernon Parish.
Well, that's just sort of the name of the title on the slide, but blow up, Bill, in the Alexandria, Pineville area. I think this was the beginning of your comments, yeah. So that area is broken up into at least 2 districts there in the Alexandria, Pineville area, is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
I mean, is Pineville is split into two districts, and Alexandria is also split into 2 districts?
I'm not sure in terms of Pineville. I mean, Alexandria, it looks like for sure is split into 2 districts, part of it at least. I'm not sure. I believe Pineville is also split into 2 districts right there as well.
Yeah, and I mean, I always think of those as being, again, one area, one community of interest. Yeah, that's very very odd drawing there to me.
And I drive going to school. I'm pursuing a master's degree, but I still go out to Monroe, of course. I drive up Highway 165 to get from Alexandria to Monroe. And everybody, as many of the towns you can see on this map right here, Pollock down, everyone comes to Alexandria. So it's just like crazy that all the commerce happens in Alexandria, but just because they live outside, I mean, having 3 different districts, and I'm mainly talking about the Alexandria metro area itself, just the Alexandria Pineville area is what I'm mainly concerned about, but still looking into Grant Parish. I know preserving parish lines is what we would want, but it's also important to consider the communities of Pollock and Prospect and all those other communities as well. That's something to look at.
Okay. All right. I don't see any other questions on the board. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate your travels. All right. We've got, I think the rest of these cards are present, not wishing to speak but in opposition. Susie Labrie, Savannah Harrison from Baton Rouge, Wade Evans from Baton Rouge, and Jamie Angel, actually from St. Martin Parish. Arno. Okay. Okay. All right, I've got a few, and members, you'll have this in your folders, emails in opposition, and I'll just read the names very quickly. Darla Lennox from Lake Charles, Holly Royston, Sandra Campbell, Andre Bro from Wanacadiana, Susie Labrie, Paula Ballou, Shirley Adams, Kathy Constanza from Prairieville, Little Beagles, Terry Head. Okay. I think those are my cards. All right, sorry, we're multitasking here a little bit. All right, did I lose my computer driver? Okay. Yeah, I think I'm good. I think I'm going to let that go. All right. Any other questions or comments from the committee? I think we've heard all the cards. Mr. DeVille, do we have any amendments? Okay. Yeah. I think we're ready. Yeah, hang on one second. I know we've got members in and out. I apologize. In and out, trying to take care of a little bit of other business as well. Okay, I appreciate the kind of pause there for a minute as we gathered up our group again. We did also get a card from Senator Troy Carter, as you know, a member of Congress, present in support, not exactly present, but in support, do not wish to speak. He's got long tentacles, I guess, from Washington, D.C. Senator Price, would you like to speak on his behalf?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chairman. I did receive a text from U.S. Congressman Troy Carter. I fully support the creation of a second congressional district, second minority district. Louisiana deserves a fair map that creates meaningful opportunity for African Americans to elect a candidate of their choice. Please share my support for Senate Bill 1 with the committee today. Thank you. Congressman Troy Carter, Congressional District 2.
All right, Senator, thank you for that. All right, Senator Foyle.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I have an amendment that I had sort of discussed in concept earlier with Senator Fields, and because the judge has given us a direct order and it's a short time frame, we just don't know ultimately what the litigation may go, but we do know we need to take action during this special session. So I asked the staff to work up an amendment, which I'm going to probably offer for any plan that comes through, which I'll summarize it, and the staff can explain it further detail. But basically, if we do pass a bill with this amendment, that bill would be the plan for the fall elections. However, if at a later date a court upholds the previous plan we held, then that plan would continue to move forward. And there's more wording in it. I tried to make it summarize it, but the staff can probably explain further.
All right, would you all like to add to that?
Would you like me to distribute it first?
Yes, let's do that. Let's distribute. That's a great idea. Let's distribute the amendment first. All right, so Senator Full, you have the floor. Would you like to speak on the amendment again, and we'll give...
Yeah, it's a wordy amendment. I mean, the concept that I asked staff to incorporate is basically that the plan that we pass for this legislative session, that would be the plan in effect for the fall election. However, if at a later date a court upholds the previous plan we passed, then that plan would supersede the plan we passed this session. That's what the goal of the amendment is. I know it's a wordy amendment, but it's simply, since we have to act by the 20th to do something, this simply puts that protection in place if the litigation continues.
Okay. All right, Matt, did you want to add anything to that, or that's...
I think the senator summed it up nicely.
Okay. All right. All right. Senator Fields, I know you're reading the amendment. Do you have any objection to the amendment?
No, ma'am, Madam Chair, no objections to the amendment as written.
Okay. All right, Senator Alain.
Yes, so, thank you, Madam Chairwoman. I'm a little confused. So they'd run under one district, but if the court changes its mind or upholds the original plan, then all of a sudden they're elected in that district but representing another district. So how do we know, how do they know if they, I mean, somebody may get elected that is elected in an original district but ends up in somebody else's district? I mean, I think this adds more confusion than...
Well, and it may be in the way it's worded, but the goal is, since we have to do, the judge has ordered us to pass a plan by the 20th, we don't know what the appellate courts will do with with our original plan. And so the goal was, if we pass something and then the courts a few weeks later come back and say, hey, the original plan was okay, this then that plan would supersede this plan, because we don't have we don't know what's going to happen in the future with the courts.
Yeah, I know, but I think it just adds to
So that's the goal.
Confusion. Thank you for your effort.
Thank you.
Okay, so let me make sure that I understand now that we're talking it through again. I thought I did, and now maybe not. So the idea is, we're saying again that we don't know how the courts may rule, right, or what plan the judge may put in place.
That's right. They're just it's trying to take care of the uncertainties as best we can. But once again, it's simply saying, let's say hypothetically we pass Senator Fields' plan with this amendment. His plan would then be, and if it goes through the process and is signed by the governor, his plan would then be in effect for the fall. However, this amendment says if the Fifth Circuit or another court or even the district court has a different ruling and says the original plan is now valid, then that would take preference over Senator Fields' plan. Does that, and that's what the goal is, and I'm certainly willing to work. I've asked staff to help me with the wording to get that right.
Okay. Senator Harris.
I just want to make sure, and we have some bright attorneys in the room, the plan adopted by this act is an interim plan that will be effective for elections to the 118th United States Congress only. I guess what my question is, is if the courts agree that this map that Senator Fields is currently discussing, and they say that that is the plan, if I'm not mistaken, this is stating that it only applies to this particular election, which would be the 118th. So what happens in 2 years? Is that, you know, in 2 years, will there be a different plan, or will it be this plan? Because the way this reads, it says elections to the 118th United States Congress only. So that's specific to this upcoming fall election. And I just saw this myself this morning,
and that's a valid. That's a good question, and maybe that's something that we can look at with staff on how we word it. I mean, I think you know what my goal is.
Yes.
But I don't want to create more confusion, and so maybe we can strike that language possibly. Because I think if you just struck the if you struck like 4 elections to the 118th United States Congress only, that may solve your concern.
I believe so. I just
doing it on the fly, but I think
I just didn't want to us to do something that would only impact this one particular election.
I understand your concern. That's a valid concern, and I can talk to staff about that. Or, Madam Chairwoman, how would you like to proceed?
Well, I guess what I'm thinking, I think these are all good questions. You know, and I reflect on the 2010 census. I mean, many of those lawsuits didn't get resolved for 8 or 9 years. I mean, they just got resolved before we took the 2020 census. And so we could be talking about a number of congressional elections before all of this gets settled. And so maybe we need to take a step back. Senator, there will be, you know, many opportunities to add amendments to this bill, you know, should it go forward. And maybe we need to put some more legal eyeballs on this before we adopt it. What would you say if we not maybe withdraw the motion to consider this amendment, and let's look for another opportunity to consider it and work on it a little bit more?
Yeah, I'm more than willing to do that, Madam Chairwoman, and I think you could probably fix it by just striking out a few words in the first and second sentence, but I'll work with staff on that.
Okay. Are y'all all right with that? Other members of the committee, if we, I think Senator Foyle has withdrawn the motion, right? Senator Foyle, I believe, is withdrawing the motion on Amendment Set 13.
I am, based on the way it's worded. Yeah, based on the way it's worded, I think Senator Harris raises a good point that it might leave some other questions. So I would like the opportunity to work with staff to get it cleared up and make it more concise.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. All right. Do we have any other amendments? Yes. Okay.
The staff need to pass it out.
All right. I think Senator Reese has an amendment. Would y'all pass that out?
Yes, sir.
Sort of ads, grant, song, part of the song. It switches from here. And what it doesn't change anything.
Did you
else.
turn in your card?
2 or 5.
It only affects 4 and 3. Doesn't change anything else? Yes. It's just putting Vernon whole. Making Vernon whole. Yeah, and Grant.
Let me look at the numbers. Say it's that to that. Doesn't change any of that. That. It's just here. It's Vernon, Grant, and LaSalle. The only changes.
Okay. Senator Reese introduces Amendment Set 12. Senator Reese, on your amendment.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Members, the amendment that I have to this map today, Senate Bill 12, or Amendment Set 12, seeks to rectify one of the principles of redistricting that I absolutely feel like we cannot abandon in the effort to comply with the court order in developing 2 majority-minority districts, and that is to abandon those communities of interest that I think are most integral to federal policy in the state of Louisiana. And in so doing, I believe that anything that seeks to divide the largest federal installation in the state of Louisiana into multiple congressional districts would violate those other principles of redistricting. And so my amendment seeks to rectify that. Senator Fields, I do not in this amendment modify in any way the 2 majority-minority districts that you propose in your map, which is Districts 5 and Districts 2. I seek to rectify this in modifications to Districts 4 and Districts 3. And so this amendment primarily, in summary, keeps the Vernon Parish in 1 congressional district, thereby resolving the issue related to the community, the strong federal community of interest that exists with Fort Polk and the military installation. And it makes up, for those population numbers, I believe in the parishes of Grant and LaSalle to the best, to the extent that we can do that. That's what the amendment does, Madam Chairwoman.
I'm doing my best, Madam Chair, to go through.
Yes, Senator Fields.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I appreciated Senator Reese, this amendment does not affect District 2 or District 5. And District 2 and District 5 actually remains the same.
Correct. I'm looking for a head nod from Bill there, but yes.
And it only changes Vernon, makes Vernon whole, and it adds Grant and part of LaSalle.
I believe that's
So
what
it's
the amendment
switching
does, Senator.
between 2 congressional districts, and those 2 congressional districts would be congressional district, where's my map? 3 and 4.
Yes, sir. That's
Okay.
that's what
I have no objections to
amendment.
that. It bumps the deviation up to 8, and I think it's 17 instead of, hold up one second. Don't have any objection. It bumps up the deviations a little bit, but I think the deviations move up from, slightly, but I think that meets all the court's requirements.
Madam Chairwoman, I've moved for adoption of Amendment Set 12.
Senator, let me ask you this. Have you had a chance to talk with, any of the locals that are impacted by these changes in LaSalle or Grant Parish? Let's see, I guess it's mostly LaSalle, well, both, right? LaSalle and Grant. LaSalle's being split up now. They weren't, an hour ago. We still haven't addressed the issue in the kind of what I see as an issue in the Alexandria area. this
ma'am.
does fix this does fix your issue that you're seeking to fix in Vernon, but of course, all of these changes, and this is what makes redistricting maps so challenging, is that there's a ripple effect, right? So any change that you make in one part of the map ripples into other parts of the map, right? And so it affects other people that this morning didn't think they were affected at all, or changes them from one district to another. Have you had, this is all moving very fast, have you had an opportunity to talk?
No, ma'am. No, Madam Chairwoman. I appreciate that concern, but no, I've not. I've just, based on the testimony today and my own knowledge, sought to rectify what I felt like was a abandonment of one of those core principles in terms of the way that federal installation was being treated. So.
And I appreciate that. I mean, I do think that's a concern that many of us share on the military basis. So again, I support the correction that you're trying to make. I just want to make sure that we understand, the ramifications of what new challenges we may be creating as a result of that. So what I would like for us to be able to do is what we have done in the past with all of our other redistricting efforts, and that is to hold this bill until tomorrow. And I don't remember if we normally adopted the amendment or we waited till the next day to adopt the amendment, but we want to give, I guess we adopt it so that we can enact it, and not enact it, enroll it, right? So then what we see tomorrow is one that's got it all put back together. Isn't that what we did in the past? I think so. No? Isn't that what we did? So you have overnight to put them together, because part of the issue is you're trying to make sure you haven't dropped any precincts or double dipped any precincts or whatever.
Madam Chair, I mean, if I may, what do we have this together? Yeah, because we are operating under a strict time limit. I mean. And I'm not trying to push the committee, I'm not trying to push the legislature. I just want us to be able to get it to the House in a timely fashion so that they would have enough time to do what's necessary for them to do if they choose to do it. And so it was my desire to have the bill on the floor today so that they could at the very least read it in. I would urge the committee to pass it, if it's the desire of the committee to pass it today, not let it lie over, because I do think that would put the legislative process in jeopardy.
Well,
it's your call, but I'm just giving you notice. If it lies over, it puts us it puts the bill in jeopardy of passing the entire process.
Well, which is back to the original point of 6 days is just not quite enough. I mean, we have to have an opportunity to be deliberative, right, and to offer amendments and to do some of those things as we always do. I mean, the goal is not just to pass something in 6 days, I don't think, and I'm not trying to diminish the work that you've done in any way or say that this is, this was a thoughtful proposal on your part, and so I'm not trying to disparage it in any way. But I do think that, the goal should not be for us just to pass a bill without having an opportunity to deliberate and to amend it as the body sees fit. I'm also aware that there is I think another bill that is going to be dropped that will have 2 black districts. That I would like for us to be able to see and to hear tomorrow. And so what I'm going to suggest to the committee is that we do hold this bill over till tomorrow with the amendment. Hear the other bill before we decide which bill, if any, we want to pass out of the committee. I think that is, again, keeping with what we have done in the past. In this committee, we heard the bills, we moved one of them out, and I think that is a prudent step for this legislature and one that is very consistent with how we have managed our business in the past. These are very complicated bills, and we want to make sure that we're doing it right. and to give everything very thoughtful consideration.
What, I mean, it's your committee and it's the committee's rules. The committee can do what it so desire. I just simply urge the committee to pass an instrument out today so that we can receive it on the floor today when we go into session. If the committee chooses not to do that, we will go in today to do nothing. There would be nothing to do today when we go in. And if we go in today, there's absolutely nothing to do, and we would have wasted a day of floor work. So, I mean, if that is the committee's desire, because when we adopt committee amendments on the floor, we don't let it lie over on the floor when we adopt committee amendments on the floor. So if it's that important, I would urge the committee, because we haven't adopted the amendment yet, don't adopt the amendment in the committee, adopt the amendment on the floor, because look, it's not even about, it's about getting the process done. I'm just really trying to get the legislature to not put itself in a worse position than it's already in. And I just see us putting ourselves in that position, and I just don't want us to do that. But I don't set the rules. I'm just trying to get us to abide by the court's order.
And I understand that, and you know, I'm trying to also make sure that we as a committee are doing our due diligence and working with you to make the bill better. And in my opinion, bills get better as time goes on, generally. And I think this is a reasonable amendment on the part of Senator Reese that we would like to consider, but we want to make sure that we're doing it in a thoughtful way.
Yes, ma'am.
So staff, can you advise me? I really don't remember before if we adopted the amendment in committee and held it over, or if we because then it gets it, okay.
That's why we lie over, so everybody gets a chance to see the adopted amendment.
That's right. Okay. All right. Ms. Sullivan?
Madam Chairwoman, yes, the committee would adopt the amendment and hold the bill in committee, but there is no engrossment that's prepared so that you can look at the bill as it would be if the amendment were adopted on the floor.
Okay. Okay. All right. So adopting it, having it lie over so everyone has an opportunity to see it, go back, talk to the locals in that area, gather more information is what we've done in the past. All right, Senator Tarver.
Are we going to adopt Reese amendment?
Yes, that's what I'm suggesting is Senator Reese is going to make a motion.
Okay.
Right, to adopt amendment set, what's the amendment set? Amendment set 12. Okay. So Senator Reese has made a motion that we adopt amendment set 12. Is there any objection? All right, a question from Senator Harris.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we're very clear that if we adopt this amendment and we hold this bill in committee, that it's not violating the timeline that was given by the judge. I stated earlier we have a June 20th timeline in which to operate under. Now, I get it, and I understand if we want to keep it in here and, you know, give parishes an opportunity to see whether or not they like it or not. I mean, you know, with all due respect, if that's what we're doing, we don't have to adopt the amendment. We could talk to the parishes and adopt it on the floor. But if this is a situation in which we're trying to keep it in committee and we run out of time, that's not what I'm here for. And I just want to put it on the record and let that be known, because we're running up against a timeline. We're running up on June 20th. Today is Thursday. We're talking about Monday. And we understand and we all are aware how this process goes. So I just want to be on record to state that if it's the will of the committee to keep it in committee and hear something later on, or another bill being dropped that none of us have seen, that's one thing. But if we're all operating in a manner of good faith and we want to make sure that these parishes and everybody have an opportunity to look at it, we can do that today and tomorrow. This bill can come out of here, and those conversations can be had, and that amendment can be put on the floor. So I don't want to sit here, you know, now coming back on this committee because it's so important. This is such an important issue. Being back here, pretty much wasting my time. Because I'm here, because I believe that we're here to do a job and it's the right thing to do, and we all want to do that. But I did not ask to come back here for us to still be in violation of a court order. So I just want to put that out there and make sure that everyone, you know, on this committee understands where I'm coming from, you know, in reference to what it is that we're doing right now. So I have no problem with Senator Reese's amendment, but if that's something that would throw us out of whack on time, that's a problem. I sat here, I gave you all a timeline. I mentioned my colleague, Senator Ford, who was in the House at the time. We did it in 6 days. And that was the budget bill, something that everybody in here is very much concerned about and affects everybody. So I just want to put that on the record that, you know, I have no problem with the amendment, but since we're running up on this timeline, we have to be very careful.
Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Senator Harris. Senator Tarver, do you have a question?
Did we adopt his amendment?
Not yet.
Okay, okay.
All right.
Madam Chair.
Senator, I'm sorry, who spoke? Yes, sir.
If I may ask Senator Reese a question, would the senator, I mean, if it's the committee's desire to hold the bill over if they adopt the the amendment, would the gentleman be willing to just hold on this amendment and put the amendment on the floor? Because I do think if you hold the bill over overnight, then we have nothing to do when we go in today. I mean, the whole purpose of being here today is to get a bill out of committee today, and I just urge the committee to get a bill out today so that we could can move a bill forward when we go in today.
I do think we will have something to do today, and that is the other bill, I think, that's being introduced will be introduced today.
Yeah, but
So
from a time perspective, that bill then has to be referred to committee, and we have to be out of here by the 20th. I mean, I wish we could just push that bill. We can change the author on this bill. I don't care. I just look. We need a bill out of here by the 20th, and I think we're running into jeopardy. If the purpose is to give the House a bill where it can't pass it, then we're wasting all of our time. I just want us to be in good faith with the court, and we have an instrument before us. We can amend the bill that you're going to introduce today. You can amend this bill to the bill that you're going to introduce today when we hear this bill. I mean, we just do not need to run out of time, and I think we're getting to that point.
Well, Senator Milligan.
Thank you. Madam Chairwoman and members, the precedence of this committee as set in the previous redistricting session is once we made an amendment, a substantial amendment like Senator Reese's, that we gave the public the ability, the folks that are listening, the ability to look at the changes. You know, this is an important matter, and frankly, I feel like we were hamstrung from the very beginning because we were only given 6. We weren't given 8, we weren't given 10, and it could have happened. I don't think we ought to violate our precedents, our standard that we set the first 3 weeks, by forcing something out of here with changes like Senator Reese's amendment without letting the folks see it. And if the shoe was on the other foot, I could hear the argument would be different. But in this case, we've got to follow precedent. You know, Senator Harris, you mentioned Senator Foyle and his 6-day miracle with HB1. He probably had more days to do it, but he got it done in 6. We are only given 6, but I don't think we ought to violate the precedent that we adopted and used in the previous redistricting session to hurry something to the floor that needs to be changed and looked at and considered with another bill that's coming up that we'll hear tomorrow in this committee. That's just my 2 cents, Madam Chairwoman.
Senator Milliken, with all due respect, I mean, with all, listen to presidents. We're on a court order, and I think that takes precedence.
We are under court order. But as far as we are on a court order, but as far as this committee, the business at hand, we have to handle it the way we're supposed to handle it, and I think that's the best way. That's the best approach. It's the approach that we've done.
Then you've been around here perhaps longer than me. Then you tell me how we get a bill tomorrow. Tell me how we get a bill through the process when it's filed in the files of the Senate tomorrow. Explain it to me. How do we do it?
We have to listen to the testimony we heard today. We have to take the amendments that Senator Reese are offering, and we have to put that out there. We have to let that lie overnight in case folks want to come tomorrow testify on or against Senator Reese's amendment. That's only fair. That's giving those people a voice. I don't see where we have a choice not to do those things. Our constituents back home, Senator Reese's constituents back home, they can't come testify on the floor of the Senate tomorrow. They can only come here to testify tomorrow. And that was the standards that we set originally. We weren't given a choice on the number of days. We're trying to operate inside of a number of days that we were handcuffed with. But we're doing the best we can, and I think that sticking to our precedent is the right thing to do.
Okay, so you hadn't given me how we get to the 20th. So if you do it based on your scenario, we are putting our fingers in the judge's face, and I don't think we should do that. I really don't, Senators. I think we are going down a very slippery road, and I'm a member of this Senate, and I'm going to speak out, and I'm going to do the right thing. I think we're doing the wrong thing if we go down that road, because not one of you can tell me how we're going to do it starting tomorrow. And if you do know how to do it, tell me. I want to hear it right now. Tell me how we're going to do it starting tomorrow. Now we have lost 2 days. Let's not play games with a federal court. Now, I know we got some good lawyers who have told us, look, we're going to get the Supreme Court to decide. Give us your cell numbers. We're going to get the Supreme Court involved in this. I know y'all got some good lawyers giving y'all good advice, but so far it's been bad. Keep listening to them and see where it gets you. You might win, but you just might not. I'm not willing to roll those dice. And as a member of this Senate, I'm telling you, you need to get a bill out of this committee now. Now, you can wait till tomorrow, but I'm telling you that's bad advice. Bad advice. I've put on the bill, look, do what you want to do, Madam Chair and members. I can't keep trying to tell you to do the right thing. Y'all keep trying to get more and more time. You have no more time. Your president has been before the court, and she just told your president no more time, and you're still trying to get more time. The gentleman and the gentlelady's time has expired. You have no more time. Offer up the amendment, adopt the amendment, hold the bill over if you so desire. I'm telling you, it's bad advice.
Thank you, Senator Fields.
And I would like to say, we're not getting advice on how to legislate. This is this legislative body's job to legislate. This is not advice from a legal group. This is us doing our job, making sure that we have transparency in the process, as Senator Milligan said. And the fact that, yes, we're under a time frame. I can't control that. But we also have a responsibility for due diligence and doing our job. It's not just, I mean, if Cleo could just pass a bill on your own, we could be out of here in a couple of days. But that's not how the process works. There's 144 members that all want, and the public, that want to have input into the process. And that is our responsibility as elected leaders of we're representing our districts, our constituents. That is part of the process. And so I don't understand how you can expect us to pass the bill and just continue moving it, because it's more about the timeline than it is about the quality or the content of the bill.
It's 2 o'clock. It's 1:43, Senator, Madam Chair. We've been here since 9 o'clock. Senator Reese has offered up a good amendment, in my opinion. He wants to protect the people in his area. It's not complicated. At the end of the day, explain to me how you can get a bill through the process if you start tomorrow.
Well, I would say ask the judge that put together a 6-day clock. Right? This is not what I would have picked if you had asked me. And there was a document, I forget the legal word, presented by the president to the court asking for whatever it was, 9 or 10 days, right? Because the timeline that we all know and appreciate and understand would take something closer to 9 or 10 days to be able to execute.
See, I think that we are going to find ourselves in contempt of the Middle District because we're playing with this federal judge. And I just think that's a bad way to go. Look, I'm finished. Y'all, my colleagues, I've said enough, probably said too much. Vote your conscience.
All right, Senator Tarver.
Substitute motion. I like to move this bill out favorable.
All right.
I've got a motion on the floor to adopt the amendment.
No, but I got a substitute motion.
The substitute motion's on the bill, not the amendment.
I have a substitute motion. You made
All
a
right,
motion,
hang on.
I made a substitute.
Hang on. All right, let me get my experts here. So we have a motion to adopt the amendment. We also have what Senator Tarver is calling a substitute motion to report the bill favorable. Do we deal with the substitute motion, or is it different because one is dealing with the bill and one's dealing with the amendment? All right, we're checking on that.
I understand the process. This is a delay tactic. I made the substitute motion. You made a motion. I made a substitute. Bring up the Robert Rules order and you'll see it.
Okay, all right, members, everybody, we're working a little short-staffed here. All right, so Senator Tarver is correct. We take the substitute motion first. The substitute motion is to report the bill favorable as drafted. Okay, so the substitute motion is to report the bill favorable. So a vote yes would be to report the bill favorable. A vote no would be to go back to the original motion. All right, so Madam Secretary, if you will call the roll, call the vote.
Senator Milligan? No. Senator Harris? Yes. Senator Allen?
No.
No. Senator Foyle? No. Senator Tarver? Yes. Senator Womack? No. Senator Reese? No. Senator Price? Yes. Senator Hewitt?
No.
No. That is 6 nays and 3 yeas.
All right, so now we take up the original motion, which was to adopt Amendment Set 12. Any objections to adopting the amendment? All right, seeing none, then Amendment Set 12 is adopted. All right, Senator Foyle, did you want to take up your amendment?
I do, Madam Chair, because I don't want to delay things by taking this up tomorrow, so I'd like to put this on today. I have, in light of the suggestions by Senator Harris, I've taken out any reference to the upcoming, the 118th Congress election. So the way I understand the amendment to read now is simply, if this bill goes into effect, it will not go into effect, or I'm sorry, it will be preceded by the existing map if the existing map is later determined to be legal map. The amendment also puts an effective date on the bill. There's no effective date, as staff has told me, so it also puts an effective date on Senator Field's bill, effective on signature of the governor. So those are the two amendments.
What set do you have, Senator Foyle?
I have 15.
All right. All right, I was sorry, I was looking at the old set. Okay, so set 15, does everybody have a copy of that?
So it takes out any reference to the 118th congressional election. It simply leaves it that this act will be in effect unless the other act we passed previously is found to be in compliance.
Okay. Any questions about the amendment?
Do motion.
I didn't hear the first one yet.
He made a motion to adopt amendment.
Okay.
My substitute motion is to report this bill favorable as amended.
All right. Okay, so Senator Tarver makes a motion that we report this bill favorable as amended, which would include Senator Reese's amendment. Any objections? Senator Womack objects? All right, so we're going to call for the vote. So a vote yes is to report the bill with Senator Reese's amendment. A vote no is to return back to the original motion, which would be to consider Senator Foyle's amendment. Yes is to report the bill favorable with the First Amendment. No is to return to the original motion. All right, Madam Secretary, call the roll.
Senator Milligan? No. Senator Harris? Yes. Senator Allen?
No.
No. Senator Foyle? No. Senator Tarver?
Yes.
Yes. Senator Womack? No. No. Senator Reese? No. Senator Price? Yes. Senator Hewitt?
No.
No. That is 6 nays and 3 yeas.
Okay, so we go back to Senator Foyle's amendment. He moves that we adopt Amendment Set 15. Is there any objection to adopting that amendment? Okay, seeing none, then that amendment set is adopted. All right, I'm going to make a motion that we hold this bill till tomorrow and consider the amendments. Any objection to doing that?
I object. I make a substitute motion to move the bill as amended.
Okay, so I made the motion to hold the bill till tomorrow to give the public time to consider, and the members of the committee, the amendments, to which Senator Price objected. Senator Price offered a substitute motion to report the bill favorable as amended, which includes the 2 amendments now. All right, so we're going to call the roll. A vote yes would be to report the bill as amended. A report no would be to go back to the original motion.